Hello, it's the Blighty Otaku here, and welcome to another video. And, well, a while ago, Sony announced the PlayStation Classic, a mini console with 20 games for £90. Unfortunately, in the days after that, it was found out that none of the games were actually their PAL variants instead of the NTSC versions, which probably would have been better, and that most of the parts in it were pretty much cheap end-of-life components. So it was literally, they thought, well, Nintendo are making bank out of this mini console business, let's knock one together quickly. And, well, with all of that, I thought, well, could I actually do something like that for cheaper? And, well, little over £70 later, and here we are. Although I did have to break open the packages and check that, because I did hear some rattling in it, which turned out to be the SD card rattling around inside the box. So let's go through all of this first. So what we have on the left is the Ucreate Raspberry Pi free starter kit, and this consists of one Raspberry Pi 3 Model B Plus with the, I'm gonna have to be a bit twiddle fingers around here because I had to move this out of the way so as it wasn't rattling around inside the box. We have a 16 gig micro SD card, and it is a integral UHSI class, speed class 1 but SD class 10 card, 16 gig, with the de facto Raspberry Pi OS noobs with Raspbian. I'm going to stick that back in there because that's the reason why this box, as I said, this is the reason why this box is open. So I heard rattling and I thought components had come astray. We also have one black official Raspberry Pi case, which is easy to put together, and also there are two little, although it's not quite visible on the camera, probably a bit, but you can see those two dots there. That's for the power and activity indicators on the Raspberry Pi board over there. And also, while I originally thought that this wasn't exactly the genuine article, so even though I did open it up and it did, like the case, have the actual Raspberry Pi logo on it, I thought that this wasn't genuine until I decided to look at the packing, the label here, and it is exactly the same type of the labeling standard on that is the same as it is on the case, and pretty much the same for the Pi itself, the Raspberry Pi itself. Right. And on the right we have the Gorilla Pi heatsink kit for the Raspberry Pi, which includes a small heatsink. Well, it's two aluminum heatsinks. The small one is for the LAN chip, the larger one is for the processor, but we have this copper one here, which is actually to go onto the RAM. Oh yeah, and also, as I said, this whole kit with the memory card, with the OS, the case and the power supply cost me just under £50. The heatsink kit cost me just over £5. And there's this Toshiba micro SD HC card, UHSI class 1, SD class 10, UHSV class 1, 16 gigs. Unfortunately, because of the issues I had actually getting stuff into one batch, this card isn't actually listed on those that are compatible with the Pi. It hasn't even been tested, unless the information is not there. But well, gonna find out if this works. This is actually going to be the SD card that the Retro Pi OS is going to be installed on. And well, of course, we have the obligatory USB flash drive, and I decided to pick a 64 gig Toshiba. Because that SD card cost me over 3. This just cost me over 10. Although, again, problems with getting everything together, because I tried to actually order a pair of 32 gig Kingston flash drives. Unfortunately, even though they said that they were available that they were actually in the collect set, that you could actually send these to a collect location, when I went to check out, it said nope. So I had to end up getting this, but it was just over £10 for a 64 gig drive, and it's a single drive, and it's a single flash drive. So, but you're probably wondering, there's actually something missing from here, and you'd probably be right if I weren't flush with HDMI cables to begin with, because we got this one, which I believe actually came with the AOC monitor, and we've got a 1, 2 and 3 meter HDMI cables that I bought from Overclockers UK. And I do believe I actually got because I think I actually had this one and this one, these two originally, and I actually brought this 3 meter one along with the 3 meter DisplayPort cable. This is all wired up to. So, although this, while I'm actually using this as, come on, okay, right, so it looks like this is, come on, hang on, let's try focusing it on that, and then, hang on, there we go, much better. Although this is pretty much going to be a retro station system, what this is also going to be is a test for suitability to see if I can get something small and low powered that can replace that can actually do what's going on here. Because what I have is although you can't really see it because lighting, the Dell Precision T1600 is, even though that's supposed to be my backup gaming platform, but doesn't have all the hardware necessary, is actually doing Twitch. I would run YouTube videos on it if I would, and I also use it to manage all my streaming data. So I just keep an eye on the stream, the chat, and Streamlabs. But the thing is, if this can actually work as a replacement for that, I'll end up buying another one of the. End up buying another kit. Although I might just buy a Pi 3B Plus, a case, and a power supply and heat sinks. Although I probably won't get this kit. I'll probably buy this from, say, like Mod My Pi, because the kits they normally do are only for the processor and the LAN controller. So yeah, I'm going to quickly stop this video. I'm gonna, as I say, by the magic of video editing, I'm gonna stop this video. I'm actually going to get the heat sinks onto the Pi while I enjoy a few other videos, and I'll probably get it into the case as well. So when we reconvene, I'm probably going to have to put the camcorder back on charge. We should have this back up. We should have all of this, that and that all together and in the case. So back in a bit. And here we are. Although, yeah, there we go. It's probably a bit bright here. We are working. We have a red light on here, which shows that we are getting power, and it says required space. Yep, recommended. So we have Raspbian full, Libra elect RPi 2. So this is just noobs, so okay, so I'm just going to quickly do this. Right, well, it actually gave me a lot more information, but so we have so we have Raspbian full, right, yeah, and this is skipping around all over the place. Because what I am doing is I'm using the, oh, you can't see them, it's the RRP wireless mouse and keyboard. Install several operating systems. Okay, right, yes. There we go. Welcome to Raspberry Pi. And yep, you now have an activity indicator. So this is probably going to take a while. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, oh, this is all being written. I'm going to switch back to DisplayPort and see what goes, and probably break open, well, you can't see them now because low light. I'm going to break open the SD card and USB flash drive, and I'm going to start prepping them. So back in a flash, and here we are. We missed all the major texty part. Yeah, I think one thing I'm gonna have to do is sort out this resolution. Yep. Next. Okay. Right, let me just change this quickly. Right, let's try that again. Next. Right, so, searching for Wi-Fi networks. Okay, yep. Next. Okay, update. Checking for updates. Reading update list. Though one thing I'm definitely going to have to do is sort out this little setup here. Though what I might do is stick it up there, so it's probably got a airflow, because it's getting a bit toasty warm down there. Comparing versions. Okay, yep. Not exactly the most up-to-date version of Raspbian, so I think once again I'm going to pause proceedings and reconvene once this thing is actually in a workable state. Right, we are up, and thankfully we do have a web browser. It's actually Chromium. Right, so let's see if we can play a YouTube video. Alright, settings. Alright, and full screen. Okay, so this is a okay, so seems to be oh. Okay. Well, alright, let's oh. Oh, oh, that answers that question. Can it handle YouTube, Twitch and all that? Probably not. So, well, I'm now going to shut down this little Pi and unplug it and go back to, yeah, Now back to the DisplayPort, and we are going to reconvene on the computer, so we can actually go ahead with the rest of this little project.
Okay, right. Well, I'm probably going to be going back to that issue at a later date. I might actually look around to see if that is just an operating system issue or I've goofed up. But nonetheless, we are actually going to the meat and potatoes part of this setup, which is the image. And for that, I'm gonna minimize OBS. And for this, I am using Blane Etcher. So, because I've actually made several, well, I downloaded several images, but we are going to be using RetroPie 4.4. Yep, generic SDMMC USB device, which is G. I'm gonna make extra sure of that. Yep, USB drive G, and there we go. Okay, that was fun. Right. Yep, there we go. It is now flashing to the drive at 14.5 megabytes a second. Estimated time to completion about 2 minutes 20. Which is going to be fun because what I might end up doing is just doing this the whole thing regarding, well, the game images that I'm going to be using and that, plus the USB drive in one video, which is nice. Right. There we go. Just getting the getting the USB drive ready, because I'm also going to show what I've actually done with this initially to make sure that, well, I've got sufficient space for images, although what I might do in the future is probably just tie a large hard drive to it, so as I don't have to worry about any imaging issues, and then I can just transfer images as and when necessary, or files or images as and when necessary, just over the network. Although the network port on the Pi, even though it is gigabit capable, it's a max of 300 megabits a second, because it's running over the USB 2 bus, over the USB 2 bus, and not on its own controller, even though it does have a LAN chip, which requires a heatsink. Right, so we're at 85%, nearly there. Yeah, I mean, because I've got a few versions of Fedora for ARM processors, and also Ubuntu Mate, or Mate. Yep, finishing, and it's now validating the image. At least it is thorough. And this is going to be at least another 2 minutes. Yeah, because once this is done, what I'll do is I'll then go over what I've actually done to compress images down so that they take up less space, and well, what I've done initially to my 64 gig USB drive so as it can actually be used for storage. Uh, yeah, we're about halfway through validation. About a minute and a half left to go. I mean, at least it actually writes it, and then double checks to make sure everything is good. One more minute to go. Two, three. One to go, and finishing. Ah, flash successful. Uh, Cancel. Right. Oh, that's odd. Okay, so I'm going to quickly demount everything. Right, so demounted it. Just drive cable before you can use it. Cancel. Right. Okay, right. No, keep that closed. Let's reopen this. USB drive K. Oh, because it's this is all it can see. So I've probably got to stick this into the Pi to G. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Right. Get rid of that garbage. Okay. So, at least now we've got that done. Because for some unknown reason, that right click, and yeah, it's installed. Right, okay. First things first. Right, first thing I've got to do is. And this is live as it's happening, folks. Put the cable around the right way. And. Get that plugged in now. That is charging. Right. So, I'm going to do, and I think I might actually, I think what it's done is it's split it into two. It's split the drive into two partitions, and once I actually stick this in, I've actually got my Pi to hand, and there we go. Probably what it is when I start it up, it will start expanding the file system. With the USB drive, I'll probably leave it as is. So, yeah, click this. Yes, right. I only want to get rid of you. Okay, yeah, thank you. Right. Okay, next thing I want to show is the initial process I've done with this USB flash drive. Because with only 16 gigs on that SD card, it's not going to have much space to store a large amount of disk images. So, you got this 57.7 gigs free, but what I've done is I've created this folder called RetroPie-mount, which, although it probably requires a reboot, will, and we've got hard drive grind, what's going on, anti-malware services executable. Oh, yeah, freaking crapality telemetry. Die in a fire. All of this, and I'm still trying to bloody do a video. Right. Yeah, I've got this. So what will happen when I plug it into the Raspberry Pi, and it probably will require a restart of it, is it will actually copy the RetroPie file system over to the USB drive. I think this is, oh yeah, this is in fact 32. I'll leave it at that because I'm not going to be putting any large images on it. So, right, and yeah, I should have kept that open because the last thing that I have to deal with that is being dealt with is the problem with disk images, because most of these that's probably great. Don't you just love it when something decides to, oh yeah, and Nvidia's starting to mess about. Thankfully it's not, hopefully it's not screwing up the recording. Yep, nope, no drop frames. Right, okay, because I mean, most of these images are relatively large, could equate to at least 700 megabytes in size. So what I'm actually doing is because I've ripped all of these images from the respective game discs, and so literally these are games that I legally own, except for one or two. But yeah, because if you can see here, I've actually started to work, and well, because one of the things that I'm going to be doing here is demonstrating how this is actually done. Because you actually have the Q file sheet here, the binary file, and this, which is a CHD file, or as it's actually more known, compressed hunks of data. And that is because I've been using this little program called CHD Man, or Compressed Hunks of Data Manager, to create compressed versions that I can actually use in, well, the PlayStation emulator that I'll actually be using, which in this case is the same that I actually use for my midweek classic stream, which is Beetle PSX, which is the only one in RetroPie that can actually handle CHD files. So, unfortunately, you can't actually do anything in the GUI environment. You have to actually do this through command prompt, and you can't do this through you can't do this through Windows PowerShell. I have to remember that. So we got command prompt, and I always run it in administrator. So we're now in the System32 directory. So what I have to do is change that directory. That to C RetroPie. DIRW. Yep, that's it. Right, because one thing you do have to know is that the compressed hunk data manager, because as you can see with everything here, there are no spaces in the file names, even on the images, although you can get away with only changing the Q file sheet for each, because the Q file sheet actually points to the specific binary file. Because if you can see here, I've got everything already imaged, with the exception of Crash Team Racing, which I'm actually going to do the work here. Though I was going to leave a few, but I decided to just do one because that is a large image. It is 705 megabytes. Because, I mean, with some of these, you don't really get much of a good compression, but sometimes you do get the magic lottery, like here with Asteroids. It was 143 megabyte binary file, but the CHD file is 56.1 megabytes, which is about 2/3 of the size. And I think it's the same for Ballistic, because we got 93.5, we got well over half. We reduced the file to half of its original size. So what we are going to do is go back to our command prompt, and we are going to start the work. So, because we have to first run tell it what program we want to run, because I do have it in the same directory. So it's chd man, and then we have to start giving the instructions. So the instruction we need to use is create cd, and we go -I, and this is going to be this is for the input file, which is crash underscore team underscore racing dot q, and then it's -0 for the output file, and that is pretty much going to be the same. So see crash underscore team underscore racing dot chd. Then we hit return, and the CHD manager, the main compressed hunk data, and this you can actually download with MAME. The CHD manager is actually included with the MAME emulator, so that's one thing that you don't have to worry about. Also, it isn't PlayStation games that this works with. It also works on Mega CD disk images, Saturn disk images, PC Engine disk images, PCSFX disk images, Dreamcast disc images, although I don't know if this version of the compressed hunks data manager or the main compressed hunks data manager actually works. Will actually work with the Raycast emulator that is included in RetroPie. So, yeah, this is now going through its compression sequence, and you also see the ratio, which is which is going to be the approximate percentage that the file will be compressed to from its original state, and it's currently showing a compression ratio of just between 30 and 31%. Although it does seem to be, though, yeah, it is starting to drop below the 30s. Yeah, and the thing is, as I said, I was originally going to do a few, but considering how long this takes, I'm I'm basically just going to do one image as a demonstration. I just decided to do one image as a demonstration, and that was it. And as you can see, the ratio has come up a bit. But also, forgot to mention all the information here. It tells you the output file, the input file, the amount of tracks on the input file, the total length of the input file, the compression I think it's compression algorithms that it's going to be using, and the logical size of the input file. So we are, yep, as I said, I'm doing this live, and you can see the compression ratio has crept up to above 40%. And because with some of these, I could have just used PSX to PSP to create a PVP file, even with the multi-disc games that I have, like Wild Arms 2, and if I can ever find it again, Final Fantasy 7 or Final Fantasy 8. But, well, when I actually did a test with 2 Heart, which is also a multi-disc game, I actually got better results compressing the single images through MAME's compressed hunks of data manager than I did going through PSX to PSP to just compress it into one big image, because the final result I got from PSX to PSP for that was around about 1.1 gigabytes, while running through MAME's compressed hunks of data manager, the total image size would have been just over 900 megabytes for the 2 separate images. So I just thought it was better logic just to push everything through the same program. Yeah, and as you can see, the ratio has crept up even further. We're now getting close to 50%. Well, because it's a good thing, because most of the images I've done have only had a compression ratio of around just over 60%. Although the final ratio you get might be different each time you try, so but just best to hit the button, let it ride, and well, see what happens at the end. Right, so we are 64%, about 65%. flashcard reader, so that can go back. Right, and we're, well, gone 75, 77%. Yeah. Because because actually getting all of this compression stuff done has actually taken longer than actually ripping all these images into files. Although some disks were a little bit iffy. They wouldn't One drive wouldn't be able to work properly, but the other one on the other computer did. So I pretty much imaged all of them on the on my Dell, although I think only 2 or 3 actually got image on this computer. So yeah, and 90%, and the ratio has dropped back down to 40 to just between 40 and 41%. And 6, and it's dropped to over 42, going up to 43%. So 90, and it's complete. And the final compression ratio was 43.6%, and our original disk image at 700 was at 705 megabytes. Our CHD file is 320 megabytes, which is a very decent piece of space saved. So what I'm going to quickly do is collect up all of these CHD files, because I do actually have a place for them. That, that. So I do know for the most part that the images do work, because I tested a few of the CHD files in RetroArch. Yes, I do have Doom. Uh, that one. That. 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 Sheep. Sudstorm. Soviet Strike. Spin Jam. Star Trek Invasion. Narration Second Story Part 1. Discs 1 and 2. 2.52 Turbo. 1, 2, and 3. FSX3. The Hospital. Time Crisis. Zumba. 100. That's right. They drop down there. Wipeout 2, worms. Right, so we're going to control X them, cut them out, and we're going to go over to here and paste the whole lot in. And I'm going to go back to the C drive. And here's the fruits of our labour. So, the original folder with all of the with with all of the uncompressed images is 335.8 gigs. The compressed set is 19.9 gigabytes. So we have shaved off at least 15 to 16 gigabytes of data from all of that, which is very decent. So, what I'm going to do, not be an idiot and actually eject the flash drive. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do a run through of doing everything, all the setup for RetroPie, and once that's all done, I'll continue recording, although it'll be back through the camcorder. Well, once it's charged.
Right, we are back, and as you can see, this is taking a bit longer than expected because, well, we are still installing stuff. So I've run package up, I've run updates, I've configured everything, so I have to make sure that this is connected up to the Wi-Fi, which required old keyboard, which is still plugged in at the moment. But well, we are still installing stuff. So this is probably going to take a better part of the evening. So I might just let this dump everything, try and set everything out, and I might end up reconvening this tomorrow or later on. Really depends on when I actually manage to get all of this crap sorted out. But at least that's running cool, and put this down. Lift. That's warm, but not as warm as it was when I was running Raspbian. Yeah. I'm gonna let this tick over and reconvene once we've got everything sorted out and sorted out and done. So I think I've got to reboot it because it has all the bloody overscan line. It's underscanning or overscanning or whatever. So, well, this story has not ended yet.
And I'm back once again with, well, another issue, as all of that time I spent compressing all those disk images down to CHD has been a complete and total waste of time, because Beetle PSX, which is the emulator I was going to be using, is not included in RetroPie for ARM processors like the Raspberry Pi, because it doesn't perform well enough. So I'm going to have to, as you can see here, recompress all the images to PBP. And that is now going to take a heck of a lot longer, and I'm also going to be doing a dose of, well, at least this means I can actually compress the multi-disc images into one set, so as I don't have to worry about disk swapping. So, well, this is definitely going to be taking a while. Oh, and everything's been installed and set up, so it's just this that needs doing.
Well, it is now 4:30 in the morning, And I tried to get this set up with the 64 gig flash drive, and unfortunately it seems that some configurations wouldn't even work. And when I tried to reconfigure the controller, RetroPie was just making a complete pig's ear of it. So I just got fed up, and I just plugged, because I only had the Dell running, I basically took the SD card out of there, plugged it back into the card reader, into the Dell, and wiped the entire RetroArch partition. Because this is supposed to be configured to dump everything that was on that SD card, anything that was on there, any ROMs, to here. That never worked. So, even though I've got all the ROMs and that on here, I'm actually starting the whole thing from scratch with pure RetroArch, a version of RetroArch for Raspberry Pi called Lacquer. So, tomorrow I'm going to be getting the SD card back out, installing Lacquer, and see if that configures any better than this hump of garbage called RetroPie. On second thoughts, this thing has taken up way too much of my time. Because most of the day, I could have been spending time editing videos and getting them uploaded to YouTube. Because my internet's been like freaking arse over the past week, and I've now got to put videos I've now got to tie videos together just to get everything into one pack. And this has taken up most of the time, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this here, and there is going to be a part 2, since I spent about half an hour going through most of the garbage I was going to, and I've now got to figure out what order all these videos go into. So, stay tuned for the conclusion of this, but it's not going to be for a while because, well, RetroPie is very newbie unfriendly, because you can't even find the controller map configurations. There's nothing. The only configurations are for the Dreamcast emulator, and that's it. So this is very newbie unfriendly and very unfriendly for configuration, because for some unknown reason the whole system lost all of my control maps, the controller configuration for this. So this is now permanently on the back burner until I'm done with all of my video editing work and Friday and Saturday streams, because I've also should have been doing some bloody grinding work on Soul Worker. So this is going to one side, and this is the Blighty Otaku signing off. Till next time, I'll catch you laters.